Hello and welcome to another episode of Page Burners. We're working our way through the Malazan books in the order they were published by both authors Stephen Erikson and Ian Esselmont. We're currently on Midnight Tides. This is the second discussion for that book. We're discussing chapters 3 to 5 today. Next week will be the next three chapters, 6, 7, 8. We read approximately 100 pages of the longest edition of the book that we can get our hands on. And this time we're working off the Kindle editions for the 100-page marks. I think that's everything. If you'd like to join us, please check out the Patreon forum. We have threads there for general participation and discussion. With me, of course, we have the usual group of friends. They will introduce themselves and talk about what they are most excited to discuss today. Shadow Daddy, do you want to start?
I can't believe I got you saying that on the microphone. Yes, that is currently my name on Riverside. For those who are curious, that isn't just like a friendly epithet. I'm Carl. I am most excited to discuss. Oh, there's a lot of stuff, but I think what I'm most excited to discuss is the political intrigue, which I've really appreciated, and I don't think Erikson gets enough credit for, and particularly how he interweaves that intrigue with his thematic exploration around history and the nature of history. All right, Mirka, you go.
Hey everyone, I'm Mirka, and today I'd like to talk about Hal Beddick, maybe, about what the tragic character he is and what his motives are and how do we understand them.
And my name's Shannon, and I think I'm most excited to talk about kind of chapter 4, really, in whole, just Owl of Letherus. Like, I'm really kind of interested in the drowning and just how the city is and the way it's set up is this kind of nightmare capitalist society. Just all of it's kind of really intriguing me.
Yes, and I'm Varsha. I run the YouTube channel Reading by the Rainy Mountain, I guess, although I haven't posted on there in a while. I'd like to talk about what Udina saw in what I'm pretty sure is the inside of the Azath house, and whether it's the past or present that he's seeing, and just hash that out a little bit. I think that's from chapter 5.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was very confused about what was going on there. Even as a rereader, I was like, I don't like. I mean, there were certain things I understood, and other parts that I was like, I have no idea what this is.
Yeah, we were talking about that just before we started recording, and I think unlike the first 4 books, I feel like I'm still fairly missing a lot in this book. And like the other 4 books so far, I feel like I got a lot more, like knowing how things ended, just being familiar with the characters. I just understood a lot more than I don't want to say understood. I think that's a bad word to use here, but I just got a lot more of the references and the foreshadowing and everything that was going on in the first 4 books. In this one, I feel like I'm still missing quite a bit. But that said, there's also quite a lot that I am getting. So is that generally how all the rereaders are feeling about this? Or
I agree. I made myself a promise to kind of try and make it to these discussions as much as I can, just because it's much easier if we can kind of discover things together and discuss all these things that we are uncertain about. I think it will be very helpful. So I'm glad we're doing this.
Yeah,
absolutely. I will feel like I have a solid understanding of some things, and then Varsha or Shannon, will like come in. This has been true since book 1 with like some observation, some detail that I completely missed, and it is always like you just always get more than, when you're reading and talking with other people than when you're just doing it on your own.
Yeah, that is true. I'm really glad we're doing these discussions. Anyway, where did we start in chapter 3?
3.
I keep wanting
Yep.
to say chapter 5, but that's where we stopped, not where we started. So I think this was a Tiste-Edur chapter, right? With some Udinas
Yes.
and Sengar. Is this the one where? I guess we learned a little bit about how funerals are done with like the Tiste-Edur dead. It seems to be a long, slow, elaborate process. And it's interesting that, like, they point out that this is the only use that the Edur make of coins, as opposed to the Lethery, for whom coins are such a big part of their daily exchange, I think, which is interesting on 2 levels. I think, for one thing that happens later that we'll talk about when it comes, but the
Yep.
second thing is I guess I'm just curious about the economy of the Tiste-Edur. Is it like mostly barter system, or whatever they forage they keep? And like, have we learned anything about that?
That's my impression, is that they're more of like a hunter-gatherer, barter people. Where, and you're right,
Yep.
yeah. And then the Lethery, I mean, they basically worship the coin. I mean, that's the center of their entire life.
We also, on that note, got an answer to something I asked last week, which was, is there actually a god of like currency of exchange for the Lethery? And Udinas actually thinks about this, that there like literally is not. They do not have it, and yet it is so central to their society, and that the errant, maybe in some ways, as the god of chance, kind of relates to it, but it isn't actually explicitly tied to, their markets, which are just so central to their society.
No, I think when it comes to the Lethery, when we hear them talk they mention the errant, which I don't think we really have a good understanding of who or what god that is. And then they talk about this empty hold thing a lot,
which I think we decided is or theorized is curled Emerlon, right?
I don't know,
because the throne is empty.
He did theorize that last week.
Yeah, that I think we did talk about that, and it sort of makes sense, because what other context did we hear about empty thrones? I think the Tilanimas empty throne, which in the previous book they were all going to go defend and stop who from occupying it? Not the Tisleo's son, right? It was the other Tilanimas, the 7 who are currently owned by the cripple god. They were trying to stop them from taking the throne. So that throne is presumably empty right now. And well, that's the throne that Shadow Throne is defending, but I don't think that's the throne that he sat on to become Shadow Throne, right? It's different.
Yeah.
And is that the
Also,
same throne?
why would...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you can finish yours.
I was asking if that is the same throne that was being defended on Riftavali. It's not, right?
The throne that Shadow Throne sat on? No. And that is his titular name?
So the one in Riftavali is the one that Shadow Throne sat on, like the throne of the Shadow Realm. No?
I thought it was. I thought that was the Shadow Throne.
The
I
one
think
on
we established that
Drift
there are
is...
2 different thrones, right? One that is a true elder throne of shadow, and one that is a modern version of it that Shadow
Yeah.
Throne occupied.
Yes. The one in Drift of
But
All is the
then,
Elder Throne.
and we
Oh,
think
okay.
the empty
Of-
throne that is mentioned in this book is the original one, the elder one.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I thought last week. But then, like when we get to chapter 4, there's a lot of this talk about this so-called empty hold, and that kind of now I'm really confused.
Yeah. Also, like, why would Leathery worship Throne of Shadow? Like, there is no
Yeah.
connection there. Maybe it's just a coincidence that all of these thrones are empty, and this is a different empty throne and
Well,
empty gold.
it does seem from some of the from the shadow race that we see in chapter 5, it does seem like this is where the Tiste-Edur actually landed when with the what we saw in the prologue. Like this is where that actually was, because the shadow race are part of Gothos's freezing of time. So I mean, so yeah, so as far as like an empty hold here with the Shadow Warren getting shattered here, like that kind of makes sense to me because the Lether's right next to it. I mean, things can get warped and twisted, but I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I'm starting to think it is something different, and I don't really understand what it is at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point because they don't mention darkness or light. And so you would think that there would be some connection there. It's kind of hard to worship shadow, even if you don't know you're worshiping shadow, without also at least having some relationship with darkness and light, which they don't seem to. But at the same time, like, there are, I mean, I can't get into details, but some of the people they reference, I feel very confident are people associated with shadow. And so
Okay.
when they're talking about the gods, I don't know. Yeah, it's tough to say. Is there another one we know of that they could? I mean, I guess they could be the Beast Throne, right? That could be the
Yeah.
empty hold.
Yeah.
This timeline wise, this happened before Memories of Ice, we think.
Yep, a few years.
And at that point, the beast hold is empty, right? It
Yeah.
gets occupied in Memories of Ice. So yeah, that's another possibility I was thinking of too.
Okay.
Which is sort of interesting if that's what they worship, because I wonder if I think we talked about this a little bit during Dead House Gates, if it's sort of the primitive or base instincts of like greed and rapaciousness of the leathery, the capitalist society, if that's what they worship, if it's like an indirect worship of money.
Yeah, they have I think in general holds are kind of not related to how the empire is right now, like the dragon hold, the beast hold, the Azath hold. Like I don't think those things are important anymore in the Latery society, right? But
Right.
I guess
Yeah.
that's why it's a religion, or like it's just like something from the past that that is no longer preserved, but they still worship it.
Well,
I guess it's not that different to like religions in general, right?
I mean, I think the empty hold thematically plays into Lethris with their whole I don't know, agnostic way, because it's like, oh, we have a hold, but it's empty. There's no God there. And so they kind of worship money and have
That's
this
an
whole
interesting
system on
point.
money. So I think thematically it works with what they're doing. I just don't know how this connects with the other holds and warrants and stuff.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Mirka's reminding me, and we maybe even talked about this last week, if we mention the beast hold, that they do explicitly mention the beast hold. So that can't be the empty one. It's got to be something else. I mean, I think Shadow's the only one that makes...
from the beast hold. Yeah, you're right.
Shadow's the only one that makes sense, unless this is one we just don't know about yet, that we don't have a name for, which is
Hmm.
possible. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's very possible. We didn't know before this book that an Azath hold exists, and you know, apparently it does. So
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, regarding that, I checked. I think last time Carly said that maybe there was an Azath card, an unaligned card in the normal Pantheon. I don't think there is.
okay,
So, yeah, just like I was curious because that would be interesting. So I guess we went from the hold of Azath to not having Azath houses represented in the Pantheon anymore. But I think they're kind of above that anyways. Like they're so much more than just a house of something. Like, you know, when
No.
we talk about house of death or house of dark or shadow, I think the Azath houses are just outside of all that in the, you know, in
Yeah.
the normal Malazan world.
I mean, related to that, our understanding as of this book of the kind of elder warrens, the holds, you know, whatever you want to call them, is that they're related to more primordial powers as opposed to the ones created by Cruel and ordered by the deck of dragons. And so it maybe makes sense then that there isn't, you know, any Azath card in the deck of dragons. However, there is an Azath hold because the Azath houses are one of the primordial forces in the universe. However, they function,
Yeah.
like, you know, like dark and light and shadow and all of that.
Yeah, agreed. Same as dragons, for example, right?
Yeah.
Hall of Dragons is not mentioned anymore in the Warrens. I guess we don't have a. Well, we had a dragon Warren, anyways.
I mean, I think the dragon warren. I mean, it's the elder. It's an elder
That's true.
warren, so I
Yeah.
think it is the dragon hold.
Yeah.
My understanding is the holds and the elder warrens are the same thing, just different terms.
Yeah.
So let's actually talk about like what happens at the start of chapter 3, which is I don't really know what. I mean, it's like a massacre. The Letheri pirate some stuff, try to seal some stuff, attack the Tiste-Edur, it seems like, and then these monsters, these like shadow monsters, come up and
Yeah.
kill. I honestly have no idea what happened there. I reread it and I just couldn't really tell you. It kind of seems like the Edur think that Han and Mosag scared off whatever the monsters were, but I just really wasn't sure what was actually going on, and I didn't look anything up to see if, you know, anyone online has clarified that scene. So what are y'all's thoughts on that scene?
You think
So-
when he killed everyone, like on the leathery ships? Is that
Well,
what you're talking about?
So I guess my first question is, did he unleash the monsters that like ate all the Letheri, or
That's what I thought.
okay?
think so. I'm fairly certain that it is because all of the Tiste-Edur who weren't involved in the sorcery, they were quite shocked at what happened. This seems to be a way to fight that they're not used to, and that's what sort of leads to the fallout too, with Urut and the women being concerned that they're not using shadow sorcery anymore, they're using other sources, and that's why she sends them on that quest, right? So like I think they are unhappy about this, which means that at least I will preface this by saying I didn't fully understand what happened either, but I think based on the fallout that it was Hanan Mosag was very much responsible for what happened, that he unleashed the killing in that battle, and it was like really brutal and sorcery that they weren't familiar with.
Yeah.
Yeah, my the way I read it, and I probably misread it. I probably got this wrong, and I think it's probably closer to what you guys are saying. But just like for context, the way I read it was that the Lutheri came in, were doing pirating stuff, being colonizers, and then like out of nowhere, but connected to, kind of the general magical convergence going on, around the seventh closure and everything that's like building up, like the shadow wraiths we get to later on. These like monsters came up and just started like killing everyone. And then Han and Mosak used magic that they hadn't seen before, not shadow magic, to like ward the monsters off so that they didn't also attack the Edur. But I think that might be overly convoluted. I think you're right that he summoned them. And then that was the magic that they had never seen before. That makes sense.
Yeah. Because I forget who it was. Trull, I don't think we ever got a fear perspective, so I guess it was Trull who thought that the Lettery died without honor. And I guess that would still be true if they were just killed by the monsters, but I think they meant that they were killed by the Edur in a way that deprived them of honor.
Interesting. Okay. Confusing scene. Definitely not Erikson's clearest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
what do we got in the rest of this chapter? God, a lot actually happens.
yeah.
We get the Edur funeral rites, but we also get a lot around the dynamic of the Singar brothers. And Troll very much.
Well, then they go to the stone bowl,
right, where the dragon, the skeleton of the dragon is with its head caved in, which is revealed to be Father Shadow Daddy, if you will.
Or at least they think so, right?
Or at least they think so.
Yeah,
right.
Who knows? They have other things wrong, so.
So, can you remind me, is that all they find out at the stone bowl?
Not only that he's dead, but I believe do
they find out about who the true betrayer is? Or
no, I think they still think that at the Silch's ruin.
I think that was the chapter 5 where they where that comes up.
Yeah, Udinos finds that out. The Shadow Wraith tells him that. That's when we find out the Shadow Wraith is not Tiste-Edur, but Tiste-Edur.
Yeah. Now I did talking about this shadow or the stone bowl. I did have a note here I wrote for myself. So it says I wrote supposedly Father Shadow buried Brother Dark, and so I assume that's Silch's ruin, and imprisoned Brother Light. And I was kind of like, who's this imprisoned Brother Light? Is that Osric? Like, I don't know. Or is he higher up than Father Light because he's like the god of light to the Tiste-Edur? I don't know. It was just something I was thinking about.
Yeah, I was also trying to break that down because putting Silka's ruin in the Azath house could very well be considered imprisonment rather than burial. So
well, he buried him, buried Brother Dark.
Okay.
But also because
that's an interesting thing.
Like,
well, and wasn't the portals to the light Warren, weren't those like blocked up from the shadow side, like in I forget if it was the last book or Memories of No, it was the last book when they came across them.
Yeah,
they had blocked up the gates to shadow.
No, that's a great point.
Light.
Yeah,
you're right. Because maybe that's what it refers to.
I don't know. That was just something I was thinking about.
Yeah.
That's a great point. They locked them away, the Tiste-Edur away.
And they said
or at least
something.
the gates to them.
I forget who said this, in these chapters, but they said something about Mother Dark being suffocated by light now, like being surrounded by light, and that she
And they
can't.
said it was a Kachin ritual, right?
Oh,
Which
right, yes,
was a
yes.
surprise for me.
Is this
I
one
don't
of the
think that
things
was
that
mentioned
Utinas finds
before.
out? And did anybody else just get a picture of a black hole in their minds when you read that description? um, but yes, that was interesting. And hey, Dan.
Yeah, we've encountered
Oh.
a wild Dan.
Okay.
Hello, Dan. Hey, it's me. I'm here.
We're still pretty early on, just talking chapter 3.
Yeah.
Although we did
Yeah, I
skip
think
ahead a
so.
bit there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that's not the first thing that happens in that chapter. That's like almost to the end of that chapter, I think.
Yeah. So, rewinding a bit to the brothers for a second, the Singar brothers. I mean, I think we could talk about like the whole dynamic there that continues on through chapter 5.
Yep.
Did anyone else get the sense that, I mean, we learn a lot. We learn a lot about not only their dynamic, but kind of why their dynamic is the way it is. So, like, part of the reason Rulad is acting so petulant is he, one, has not been allowed to get married, and two, believes he's going to be sacrificed to incite the war, essentially as like a, apparently they used to practice not human sacrifice, I guess, but Eder sacrifice. And, it definitely makes it more sympathetic. But additionally, on top of that, something I noticed was I really got the sense, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I think I'm trying to look underneath the surface this time around. And I got the sense that Troll is maybe projecting his own attraction to Mayan onto Roulade. I mean, maybe Roulade legitimately does flirt with her, but I think Troll is so suspicious of his brother because he is so attracted to Mayan, Fear's wife. Varsha, you're nodding your head a lot in agreement.
Yes, I think I got that sense today. That I think maybe specifically the scene that made me consider that was when Mayan comes to visit and he's like noticing all the ways in which she looks beautiful to him, and that did not feel like it was coming from a good place. And there's this Hindi saying that roughly translates to "there's a thief in your heart," and it feels like that's probably, I mean, at least a little bit. I think he's maybe projecting his guilt of these kinds of thoughts on Roulade. Maybe it's easier for him to feel these things if he thinks her generally attractive. I don't know. I don't pretend to understand the psychology of it all, but I think just that scene is making me rethink a little bit everything that's going on, but in the like Roulade Mayan department. That said, Roulade did taunt Trull about it, but it's also possible that he just guesses at his suspicions and is just like trying to poke at him and doesn't really mean anything by it. Or both things could be true.
He doesn't even, Roulade doesn't just taunt Troll, like he actively confronts him and is basically like, stop making assumptions about me.
That's true. He does say that.
And then Troll wonders, like in this chapter, in chapter 3, that's when they have their confrontation, and Troll then like kind of thinks like, well, what happens? Like, can you become the thing that people expect of you? Can their expectations shape you? And I think
sense.
there is, I mean, there's real tension there, that he may be encouraging indirectly bad behavior by assuming Roulade is up to no good.
I didn't think exactly it was like jealousy, but it makes sense. But there's one
exchange which made me somewhat suspicious was when Troll asks Fear, like, "Oh, you have nothing to say to Roland?" And he's like, "Oh no, when you're here, what do I need to say when you're here?"
Yep.
And it was very sarcastic. So I was like, okay, well, I guess maybe he's not just thinking about protecting his honor or something like that. Yeah.
It also, that scene is so well written. Like, that felt like such a brother dynamic. Like, as someone who has two brothers and is the middle brother, like, I definitely had a moment where I felt like I was looking in the mirror with Troll, not with this specific, like, Mayan, whatever weird dynamic there, but with the, like, I definitely at times have felt like, oh, I gotta be, you know, the big brother and really police my little brother. And my older brother, you know, meanwhile is like chill about it and is like, you can just relax. You're like actually being like, you know, more of a nuisance by trying to make this a whole thing rather than just like, you know,
making it worse, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It just felt so, I read that. I was like, this feels so real to me, even though the context is very different.
And do you think in some ways Troll's suspicion of Rulad is almost permission to, I think what you said earlier, Carl, like to be the way that he's being expected to be, like there's no point in trying to be any different because they already think I'm terrible. That is a curious possibility. There's also
I mean, tied into that this is the same young guy. It's unclear exactly how old he is, but who thinks he's going to be a sacrifice, right? So he clearly his sense of self has been warped by what he thinks other people think of him. I mean, it's very kind of circular in its logic, but he clearly is influenced by how people act with him. And the fact that his father later on in chapter 5, you know, really sort of, I mean, he's just very paternalistic with him and condescending in a way that, like, I think you can sympathize with, but it clearly is not effective and just pisses Roulade off.
Well, I think the main reason is that it was in front of witnesses, and I think it was just a hurt pride, very much so, that he was, you know, he was talked to like that by his father in front of his family, and I don't think it matters to him at that point if it's justified or not. I think he just sees it as a humiliation. But yeah, I mean, based on what we read, it was a justified comment maybe from the father. Not sure if that table was the place where to bring that up. But yeah, the way the Druid is described, I don't know, to me, he seems, you know, annoying, childish, immature. So I'm not surprised that his father felt the need to mention that or like just kind of put him in his place. And back to what you guys said before, I did not really feel like there was any attraction from Troll's side towards man. I'm not sure. I think I feel like the way that I read it is that it's like a genuine overprotectiveness or kind of like, you know, I think Troll is very perceptive and observant, maybe like overanalyzing a little bit.
Yeah.
And he just won't keep to himself. He will mention it, which might not be the best thing that he can do. But yeah, I didn't catch any interest in man, and I think that scene when you guys said that he was describing how beautiful she was, and wasn't he just saying that he sees how she thinks she's beautiful, right?
That's part of it.
That would again be the observant, perceptive nature of Troll. I don't know.
Let's see if I can find the line.
Yeah, I'm
Maybe I
looking it up
missed
too.
those hints where he directly says that
Well, we might
she
see in the rest of the
is
book
beautiful. Yeah.
what happens, right?
Well, I do think he multiple times, like not just in that scene, mentions that she's beautiful, but this scene
Mhm.
certainly is the one where like that really comes to the forefront.
Okay.
And you're right, she does. I mean, part of it is also like he kind of ends that scene realizing he has no idea what the hell is going on in her head,
Mhm.
and she confuses him. And I don't know. I mean, it is maybe a particular lens that I'm reading it through, but I do feel like often the response to people, like, you know, it does feel sort of adolescent, but like the response to a crush, you know, when they don't necessarily behave the way you expect, can sometimes become that like, I just don't understand. They're very mysterious, you know. They work in a way I just cannot fathom, right? And I don't know. It kind of read to me almost as like he has put her on this pedestal.
Mhm. Well, she is turning out to be quite a strong-minded character. I think that dinner at Sengar's family table is a good example where she's like leading the conversation, arguing with Urut. What else? Questioning Talmad on things that, you know, maybe they are surprised by. She's very confident, I would say, right?
Absolutely. She's self-assured.
Yeah, I especially liked when she stopped Urut from trying to punish him by saying, you've raped his mind, isn't that enough? Stop it.
Mhm.
So that was nice. I liked her for that. I appreciated her for that.
It was nice, but from the others' hierarchy and culture perspective, it probably wasn't her place, right? Like she's kind of stepping out of that
Yeah.
and asserts the dominance already.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it, as assertion of dominance. I mean, I was mostly reading it as standing up for the downtrodden, but it could
Mhm.
very well also be that. Like, it could be more than one thing. And
Mhm.
yeah. So the line that I was thinking of before is, she absorbs these tumbling waves of attention, drawn in and fed upon. Dusk shield me. Am I mad to find such thoughts spilling from the dark places in my own soul? So I feel like, I mean, he's not saying much there, but I feel like what he's accusing himself of is doing a lot of heavy lifting and telling us what he's not quite telling us. And you know, like, this is just like it's possible that there's not much going on there, but it is, maybe he's reading more into Rulad's behavior than there might be, because of his own thoughts about Mayan. Is like, that's my only conclusion. Not that he loves her as much as Rulad or whatever. It's more that there might be an element of projection, like Carl said. And where else was I going with this? And yeah, and I think Rulad, he looks childish and silly to us, but also we've only ever seen him from Charles' eyes and from that little scolding that his father gave him. So yeah, I don't remember if we ever get another Rulad perspective, but it's interesting that this is all we see of him. So we're kind of forced to make our opinion of him through Charles' eyes, who maybe started out thinking not very much of him.
Yeah,
I was a bit surprised when he brought up the sacrifice, because that came out of nowhere, right? Like,
Yeah.
truly.
it's like
Yeah.
such a shocking expression of his inner fears or like just assumptions that he was making. But I think that's the moment where you're supposed to be like, oh, okay, so he's like freaking out internally, and that's why he's acting all weird. But again, it's a slightly, I don't know, is it childish assumption that, you know, he would be, like, he feels so self-centered that he would be the one who would get sacrificed. I don't know. I think he's taking a lot of things personally. Maybe even the fact that Fear got engaged to Man and he didn't. Because I think it's mentioned that he only started to be interested in her after they got engaged, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's all intentionally ambiguous, right? We're dealing with shadow, which is by nature ambiguous. And if it's not Troll projecting onto Roulette and Mayan, for that matter, his own attractions that he doesn't want to face. I think the other reading of it is kind of what you were saying, Mirka, that he's neurotic and he overthinks and he's maybe judgmental and he doesn't fully want to grapple with that, right? Where, again, to feel like, to open my veins a bit and like speak to, Troll again, is like, I am an anxious person who often will like get in my head about what other people are thinking. And when you do that, it's often because, you're afraid and you start to assume that they are thinking all of these bad things about you. Right. And so maybe that's what's going on with Troll, where he is judging, their behavior. I mean, because think of like what an insane judgment he makes that, oh, this is a woman who is not only self-aware of her beauty, but, willingly and confidently uses it to her own amusement and ends. Like I'd totally forgotten about, that part of how he viewed her. And it like kind of had my jaw on the floor, because it's like, it's sort of the opposite of the cliche of like, oh, the girl who doesn't know she's beautiful, but it's like taking that to like a character flaw extent, right? Where this character not only is aware of her beauty, but uses it as a weapon. And we just haven't been given reason to think that that's the case, really. He just kind of observes her from afar. We haven't seen her actively like seducing anyone or like playing with anyone. Like she kind of, maybe flirts with Roulette a bit, but it kind of also seems like she just sort of brushes him off. So
Well, way she's described, it's like, it's kind of like at the edge of whatever the correct word is, in a couple of situations, right? So.
Yeah.
Again, Charles' interpretation, though,
that exactly,
which could very well be true, but I'm also inclined to take it with a grain of salt. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't want to fully believe everything he says and like reserve judgment a little bit. That's all.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I think we are actively invited to question what's going on in his head and why he has the opinions he has.
And I think the line that I think, Dan, you pointed out when Fear says, what need is there when you are doing it for me? It's almost got the air of like, what you're doing is quite unnecessary, stop. But then also there is that scene where Fear gives in to his own doubt and says, when you try to go in between them, who are you facing? Which also I thought was an immensely powerful question, because he seems to feel, as I think when I was trying to find the line, I noticed the scene before that when Fear seems to be not quite confident that Mayan really loves him. So he's not sure whether all the overtures are coming just from Roulette or if Mayan's reciprocating, and who Trull is really trying to stop here, whether it's Roulette or Mayan. So it seems that he's uncertain of her affection for him, which also I think makes for a very interesting dynamic between all these people.
Yep. I mean, I ditto to all of that. The ambiguities are fun because there are so many ways you can read their interactions. And the last thing I want to say on this topic is just that, how to put this? It's okay. This isn't a spoiler, but an observation that I think something we need to keep in mind is Troll is telling us this story. This is his story. So the way he presents everything, we have to wonder, why is he presenting it this way? He is our narrator, literally. So why is he telling us the story this way?
Interesting. Yeah. Especially with that invitation at the beginning, or the admonishment rather, to look away. And that's where the story will be, not in what is being told, but in the shadows.
Yeah, look away to see.
Yeah. Look away to see. Dan, okay. I'm curious, since you haven't said much yet and we missed you last week, what you are thinking so far about this book and what.
Well, I was, how do I say? I had to read all this very quickly because I was late.
Sorry, not sorry.
No. It was my fault, obviously. But I'm sure there's a lot of nuance and things I lost because it's kind of, how do I say? It's very complicated to follow all these different characters, especially since in the previous books we often had many recurring characters. So you only had to memorize a couple more, but here everyone is new. So I think, like, at this point, I'm sort of getting to the point where I'm getting to recognize all the different characters. But almost until the last chapter, I was very confused as like, who's this guy? Who's that woman? Who's that, you know? But I could still follow. No, I definitely read this part before, and I stopped around here, I think. But until now, it's all, when I read it, I'm like, this is vaguely familiar.
Mm-hmm.
But before I read it, I couldn't tell you that I've read it. You know what I mean? What happens? I only have a recollection when I actually read it. So it's still tricky to follow everything that's going on. But I get the main story basically. But sometimes I got confused, like, is that person the same person that said that thing in the previous one? Or especially the chapters about the scheming, those are very tricky, scheming and politics, because then you need to know very well who everyone is.
Yeah.
And it does help that Tuck and Buck and Tehel usually have like 3 conversations at the same time, and they all kind of like work together, but you don't know if they address that thing or that thing. It could be both. Is it about trousers or is it about political scheming? Who knows?
and sometimes they disambiguate explicitly, like when Bug stitches Tehol's new half pant, and Tehol says, "Is there any point in continuing on?" And Bug says, "Do you mean with the pant or with my sorry existence?"
Yeah. I think both parts actually I could follow, like his storyline. I think it's mostly like the champion's storyline. That's the hardest part to follow for me.
We were talking about that last week, actually, about how even for rereaders, it's confusing and difficult to follow everyone. So many of the characters have strange, long, exotic names, and the names are very similar, and that we're suddenly thrown into this court where there are all these different roles. I think that's intentional.
Yeah.
I think it's meant to feel kind of labyrinthine and difficult to parse.
Yeah. I'm also not sure exactly what's going on with the arbiter and the merchant. Like, I know they're going there to, how do I say, talk about, make a deal with Tiste-Edur. I couldn't tell you, I wouldn't be able to summarize exactly all the different characters that are in there and what their motivations are.
So the thing is that I think that is very closely connected to those political schemes that are happening in the capital, right? So I think that's why it is so confusing, because they are all talking about each other, but they are in different places. Like Aquitor and the merchant are already on their way, but the court in the capital is still discussing what's going to happen there, and like they have people on the inside and all that.
Okay, I think this is a good transition to just dive into this stuff. This is what I wanted to talk about, which is, my first read, I definitely didn't appreciate the kind of the way the politics were presented in the Book of the Fallen as a whole, but really specifically, I mean, in this book, which I was really just kind of impressed these chapters. Not only in that, like, it feels very complex and it like overwhelming in a way that I think adds to the sense of stakes of the politics, but like I think kind of in the nitty gritty in terms of how it's presented, like across this range of, I mean, I guess again getting back to the nature of Shadow, where it is about the ambiguities. We have the character of Hal Beddick, who we do not get his POV, but everyone is talking about him. His brothers are talking about him. Pettick is talking about him. The prince, and everyone's talking about him. And everyone thinks they know what he wants. And the most we can glean is that, he probably wants to overthrow the monarchy in Letheris. But beyond that, it's really tough to say. Like, he clearly feels a lot of vitriol for his home country, or at least the ruling government, but exactly how he views everyone and exactly how he wants to go about his plans are difficult to say. Pettick, who's like literally explicitly his former lover, has no idea what the hell he's going to do. She thinks he's going to get himself killed, but other than that, she just doesn't know. And I really like the way that, like, not only does it kind of lean into the way that politics can become a game of like paranoia, where you're constantly having, like, it's like social dynamics taken to a heightened level because there's actual real, governmental, societal stakes involved. And so everyone is like kind of trying to read into everyone else's motivations. And, you have your allies, but like oftentimes you're a little nervous, like, can I really trust them? Like, what are they doing? What's their, intent? Are they going to zag when I want them to zig? And you're trying to like identify what they want and how to use that to help, you get what you want. And, so everyone, even when they're allied, is kind of playing the game by themselves, it feels like, which I do think adds to the stakes. And then beyond this, the way that history is used as a weapon in politics is something you don't always see in political intrigue in general, but certainly in epic fantasy political intrigue. Like, A Song of Ice and Fire, for example, is like famous for its political intrigue, and I think it does, particularly the personal dynamics that can drive like feudal politics really well. But I don't know that it makes as much use, or at least as much a thematic, importance in a driver of the plot, the way that like Erikson does here, The Power of History, and how the actual narratives you tell about what happened in the past actively influence the present and the future you're trying to create. And that everyone in power is trying to spin their own narrative about history to get what they want. You're seeing this with Yetter, you're seeing this with Letheri. And And at the same time, you have the actual consequences of the past coming back, right? Whether it is with Hull, seeking revenge now, or the Shadow Wraiths wanting revenge, or Udinas, right? Who is like, being a slave is now like kind of beginning to feel agency again. It's, I just think, really well done. I think particularly on a first read, it's hard to follow what's going on, but I just think that Erikson is doing a really excellent job of how he is laying out these political dynamics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
I should say the material concerns too actually inform it. Like that's something that often political intrigue just ignores is the kind of materialist side of things. Where like here it's like actively about, the resources that the Lethari Empire wants, and the impact of their trade, and the way they use that as a form of espionage, and likewise, it's not just interpersonal dynamics, right? Like there's actual material concerns at play.
And
All
that's
for
very
better.
new in this series, right? Like so
Yep.
far we would have mostly military strategy being discussed and military planning. But here for the first time we are seeing like how actual people live, how the society works, what the politics of it. And I think that's maybe probably intentional on Erikson's side, just kind of, giving us this new world and focusing on something else. We'll get to war probably, yes, based on what's happening. But it starts with all these political and economical details. And it's super interesting, I agree. And I agree that I appreciate it much more on a reread. I think it's, I don't know. Maybe it's impossible to catch. It's definitely impossible to catch on your first read or like fully appreciate. But things like, Tehal and Bryce discussing their family and their parents, how their father ended up and how their mother was a genius, similarly to how Tehal is a genius. That's like when you reread that, it kind of puts things into place, and it just like kind of such a small detail, but if you catch it and if you think about it, it just makes sense, and you understand the characters so much better. I really enjoyed that, and kind of that's a thing that you forget about, right? Like that their father was in debt and then wasn't around that much, and like that's how these brothers grew up, and that's how they were shaped in their childhood or like just early years of life.
I'm glad you mentioned the parents, because that's another parallel or a sort of perpendicular, I guess, perpendicularity with between the two main families, the Beddicks and the Singars, is the father mother dynamic seems to be very similar to the one, like the Singar father mother dynamic seems similar to the one described by the Beddicks, where the mother I mean, she may not be a genius, she may not be a financial genius, but she kind of seems like she is the real, like, quiet driving force and the real political operator of the two older Singars, while the dad seems a little simpler, but he's also the warrior, right? Like he's a badass. And that's, very in line with how the Beddicks were described. And the big difference, obviously, just being that the Beddick parents aren't around.
And you could assume that the father of the Beddick brothers was also a badass or like an important and powerful person, because he was trapped in that. I don't know. I think they framed him or something. They did something so that he ended up in debt, but it was not. It was clearly a plot by his enemies, right? So
exactly,
you can assume that he was in a similar way kind of influential person.
And I guess the last thing I just want to say about the politics is like, even the Tiste-Edur are initially presented as like, okay, if you were to stereotype them, right, they're like, they're the simple tribe, right? They're the savages, quote unquote. But their society is very complex, and their political dynamics are just as fraught and complex. Like, it's not just that, with the dynamics of the Singar family, it's also like Hanan Mosak. What the hell is that guy doing? He's doing magic nobody's seen before that the women don't like, and clearly he's got ulterior motives. He's got plans of his own. It seems like he's sending potential rivals on a suicide mission, aka the Sengar brothers. So there's a lot going on there that I think is very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. No one else has anything to say about politics. I guess we can circle back around.
One of the things I was wondering was, because again, a lot of the stuff that's happening until now, almost until the end, was very like local. It seemed like very, like not super large scale as we've gotten used to many of the other books. So I've been wondering this whole time, like, I wonder how this is going to connect to everything else. Because right now it seems very like its own story. But I guess I guess it's going to connect maybe through, Father Light and Mother Shadow and whatever, that all those Mother Light, all that sort of storyline. I assume that's the way it's going to connect, and there's going to be some through story, through history, all the way to the previous books.
I love hearing this because this is how I know you definitely haven't read this book all the way through, or if you have, because it's who knows? I'll give you the old classic Dan response. Who knows?
But we saw Tiste-Edur in the previous books, right? That's all I'm gonna say.
I mean, yeah.
In the Malazan world.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, the conflicts that are being set up right now are very sort of mundane and temporally very limited, not something that would, bring them all the way to different worlds or timelines or whatever it is. So.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. They seem like that on the surface, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not, but.
Well, I one of the things that happens in this chapter is it this chapter or is it chapter 2? No, it is. It's chapter 3. Udinas encounters Silchus Ruin. Right?
I think it's
his
Troll
ghost.
Sengar.
Or is it Troll? No, you're right. It's Troll. Excuse me. I'm not mixing up. They both go on weird spirit journeys. You're right. It's Troll. Troll encounters Silchus Ruin, the betrayer.
Yeah.
Maybe
and then also
yeah.
Hal Beddick and Beddick encountered Silchus Ruin. He just appears to people.
That's right. Love that dude just going around haunting people, just aura farming all over the place. He really just likes to creep them out.
What are you going to say, Carl, about his interaction with Troll?
I was just going to say that, like, that is explicitly someone from the far past who clearly has very important connections to other characters we know. Seems to not be out of the picture entirely. So I really shouldn't say more than that, but.
So we know the Azath houses are not houses, just the one in Letterus is restless, according to a casting of the tiles. And
it's dying also.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's dying. And Kettle is busy. Have you talked about Kettle already?
Nope.
No. Kettle is busy killing and feeding dead bodies to the Azath house. And apparently there are 5 Toblagai who are trying to escape. 5 people who look and think maybe like Karsa Orlong. going to be unleashed on Letherus. That's terrifying. And Silkus Ruin is going around haunting people randomly, it seems. And Udinas is witness to what I think might be the present because of the conversation between Shark Elal and Kettle, that the kid killed a Tiste-Edur, it seems like, and he saw Silkus Ruin while he was there, right? He did.
Oh my God, that was Kettle. Oh, that was Kettle's footprints he saw, wasn't it?
I think it has to be. He says he mentions that it's a child's
Oh.
footprint multiple
I
times.
see
Why
that.
would she?
I was
Wait
so
a
confused.
second.
But how did
Really?
she get in? Yeah, that I don't know. Or did she escape from the Azath house?
I
And-
thought
Well,
that
she-
was I thought it was a
That's
scene
the
like
difference.
frozen in time from like years past.
Yeah.
Because that's when he's seeing the battle remnants frozen in the ice as well, right?
Yeah.
So is he seeing the aftermath of her escape from the Azath house, do you think?
Hmm.
Oh, I don't think
do you
she's
think
trapped at the
tied
Azath house.
to the Azath house at all, or just an outside entity?
Yeah, I don't think she's trapped. She's like the guardian. Because Shaq said she was following
Oh.
Shirkalal. And I guess and she even admits she's killed like other people, like because she's trying to feed the house so that it doesn't die, and these imprisoned monsters don't get out.
Are we told how she died? She was murdered, but like, do we know?
We don't know,
Because
right?
she
No.
could be hundreds of thousands of years old. Like,
Okay.
that could have been her leaving the Azath house, right? She could have been resurrected within the Azath house and left it, and that we essentially were seeing her origin story.
And then she killed that whatever whoever had too many joints in that memory, right?
Okay, so that guy is dead. That was the other thing
Yeah.
that confused me. I was confused if the fork rule of sale. It's not called a
No,
fork
yeah,
rule of
that-
sale, but that's what
okay.
it is, right?
I didn't want to say it, but
Oh.
yeah, it's a folklore
I
sale.
thought it was a Tiste-Edur
Yeah.
he was talking about, but yeah, folklore sale makes sense.
No, it's
Yeah.
got the weird like leather
Too many joints.
kink gear and too many joints. Yeah, that's how we know.
And Udinas is sure that a child killed, or the child whose footprint he saw also killed this bone thing. By
See, I thought it was alive, and I was wondering why it didn't interact with Udinas, but it's dead. Okay, so the child
Well,
killed
it doesn't have a brain, so
Oh yeah,
I don't
the back of its head was smashed in. That was
Okay. See, I thought that it was describing the dead Jagged that were there.
Oh,
that
I'm
had
not
its
sure.
head smashed in. No, but I think you're right. I think it is because that would follow the kind of train, like the order of the description a bit better. It's
But
very
that's a cool
confusing though.
theory. Okay, so maybe Kettle is thousands, hundreds of thousands years old.
Mhm.
So, and we know they don't have to necessarily be those wild with power people for this particular Azath house, right? Because it's apparently eating anything that's buried in its vicinity. So maybe Kettle was buried there, and that's how the Azath house got it. And then she escaped, grew in power and escaped. I don't know, but I like this Kettle origin story. Teol and Shah Kelal think that somebody put the death curse on her, and that's why she's undead. But then there are also just undead in the Azath house, people who are buried nearby. So, yeah.
Wait, that's a great point too. What if that Azath house just revives dead people? Like, what if that's just a thing it does?
Is it relevant that it's like is a tower or something, or it's just that it just is a house? It's just the same thing.
It might be. It does, like the fact that it's a tower that resembles Jagged buildings. We know the Jagged build towers.
True.
I think
it was
yeah.
Also says somewhere in this chapter that they are like old jagged houses around, like just
Yeah.
settlements, like ruins of those around the tower.
Yeah, it's surrounded by jagged towers.
That is
Okay,
the
so this is an
oldest
old
thing.
settlement.
Oh,
Oh,
that's the
this is
oldest
I
building
have
on this
thoughts that I can't
continent.
talk about. Damn. Oh, you
So-
guys need to read Carcanis. Fuck.
We will in publication
We will.
order. Well, no, I'm reading ahead. I will read it then. But what was I going to say? So the other question I had about that was the ice that Udina saw breaking. He saw it in the process of sort of melting or breaking apart and revealing everything that was frozen in it, right? So do you think that's a previous, like before the Edur and the battle
No.
timescale, or is this what Gothos froze at Mail's request that
Yeah,
has then broken apart?
I think it has to be that.
Hmm.
I think Udinas is traveling through space, maybe not time. Or if he's traveling through time, he's not traveling through like hundreds of thousands of years.
But wait, is that the same place or two different places? The battle between the Chain Chemal and Tiste-Edur and Edur, and then the tower and the jagged bodies and the Forkrula cell. Is that the same place?
That's a fair point. I think it is, though. I mean, I feel like the implication is very much. I mean, this is Erikson. You never know. Like, things always get more complicated than you think it's done being complicated, and then there are more layers to it. But I think just given the structure of this book, and that often he does try to continually build on and deepen the lore he introduces at the beginning, it would make sense that the vision is of what Gothos did. So Letheris, which I hadn't fully put this together, is maybe built upon that battlefield, which is an interesting idea for lots of reasons.
Wait, I'm not sure what you're saying. Are you saying that the events that where the Jagged family gets killed by Forkrula Asile happened later on, but in the same?
Yeah.
No, wait. What are you? I'm not sure.
Yes. So, okay, if I were to order the events, it's the prologue with the big battle and the betrayal of the Tiste-Edur by the Tiste-Edur. Then, in the same location, at some point, the Forkrula Cell, or maybe it was before, I don't know, murdered the Jagged.
They did say something about Forkrula Asile in the prologue, right? Something like they are not intervening, or I'm going to find it. So I'm curious.
Was Kural Galain besieged by Forkrula Asile or Kachain Jamal or both? I can't remember. I think one of these reasons was why they were escaping and coming into this realm.
Kural Galain was besieged by the Kachain Jamal.
Yeah.
And as part of that, they did whatever weird shit to Mother Dark that they did.
Turned
Which
her
I
into
will
a
say,
black hole.
This also didn't fully click with me on our first read. Their magic is entropy. It's described as like a sound you can't hear, and that confused me. And so I thought it was like sonics, but I don't think so. It's entropy, because it talks about how essentially what it's describing is like everything breaking down, the dissolution of all things.
Yeah, but
I think their magic is entropy. It's
they
like
also
nuclear.
say they use it to build
you know.
the cities, the flying
Exactly.
cities. So how would that work?
Using entropy for like power, like their technology. The root of their technology is nuclear power.
It's not related to entropy, though, is it?
Isn't
I mean,
like
everything is, I guess, everything that
Yeah.
makes heat, right? But not.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's which is I'm hazy on my physics. I'm going to be real, because they're
My degree
nuclear
was
powered,
physics,
right?
but yeah.
Okay, well then you can help with this.
No, I forgot all about it.
Oh fuck.
But they say something like about light too, right? That magic is related to light, isn't it? I read
think
that
it's
too,
like
and I couldn't figure it out. But
The
yeah.
like
light is
nuclear
apparently
fission.
trapping Mother Darkness. Let me see. I think if we search for the word Carcanus, we'll find the sentence.
This is a metaphor, right? Like I think that's
Yeah.
important is when we talk about all this, these people are using metaphors to describe things they don't understand.
Yeah.
And we know that Ketchenchamal use hyper advanced technology.
Yeah.
And I would say the description of their magic sounds a lot like entropy. I mean, it talks about like leading to the end of all things, right? Like the gradual destruction, essentially, of the universe.
I was thinking it was something like, I don't know. I was just thinking it was something like, light plus dark in band. It's like matter and antimatter. It's going to just collapse into zero, like plus minus one sort of thing. That's what I thought it was going on there. But I don't know how it's related to their magic they use.
Yeah, maybe.
So this one, this description, it says that maybe this is a light reference that you're thinking of, Dan. Thus was Mother Dark driven into the very core of the abyss, witness to an endless swirl of light surrounding her, all that she would one day devour until the last speck of matter vanishes into her.
Yeah.
Annihilating Mother Dark.
I agree that part sounds like the description of what happens there sounds like a black hole. I do agree. But I think there was like a paragraph about specifically them talking about Ketchenchamal magic, right?
Yes, that's what I'm referencing. Yeah.
Yeah, this is done by Ketchenchamal magic, like what they call Kashan sorcery here.
Yeah, but there's a paragraph literally of them saying, oh, their magic is blah, blah, blah. That's the foundation of their magic, right? Around that part.
It's the one, it like starts with them saying it's like a sound that you can't hear that like breaks things apart.
Where was this mentioned? When they were in the stone ball?
I honestly don't remember. Is it the stone ball?
Okay, I completely missed anything about the sound.
Yeah, because they're explaining what it is and what's going on here, and they're saying, oh, it's related to the Ketchenchamal doing all these, this curse on everyone. And then they explain something about Ketchenchamal magic. I can't remember exactly what it was.
I think they're both in the same paragraph, Carl. The one that starts about sound goes on to talk about the light that's
okay.
Okay.
About the abyss.
That's sort of suffocating Mother Dark. And before that, they turned darkness in upon itself with a hunger none who came too close could defy. An all-devouring hunger that fed first and foremost upon itself. That's a black hole. Okay,
that's chaos, no? Isn't that chaos? An all-devouring hunger?
It does sound like chaos, and we do know chaos is chasing the curled Ghislaine.
Yeah.
Like that we learned in Memories of Ice.
Where is this?
Yeah, part? I definitely thought about the relation of like Dragnipur and the concealed gate to curled Ghislaine within Dragnipur being chased by chaos. I think that has to have a connection to what they are saying here, but I just don't know what it is.
That makes sense.
On second thought, I think it might be gravity. Because, this is how it's described in the opening. Kashan sorcery is born of sounds our ears cannot hear, formed into words that loosen the bindings that hold all matter together, that hold it to the ground. Sounds that bend and stretch light, as a tidal inflow up a river is drawn apart at the moment of turning. With this sorcery, they fashioned fortresses of stone that rode the sky like clouds. With this sorcery, they turned darkness in upon itself with a hunger none who came too close could defy, an all-devouring hunger that fed first and foremost upon itself.
Yeah, I mean, that's right.
That sounds like gravity.
Yes, I like that.
Wait, gravity? What? Like the magic is gravity?
I think they can manipulate gravity like or something.
Elemental gravity.
Control of gravity, I guess.
Which adds up with why their fortresses fly, right? Which they even know there for your notes.
What does gravity have with bending the light and all that?
Well, because time space and bending of time space and
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I don't know enough physics for
Yeah.
this.
like I think it
Sufficient
makes
gravity
sense.
can bend light. Yeah.
But it's like like a black hole, right? Light going to a black hole, it's just gonna bend and go into it basically. It's gonna deform
Exactly.
the
Okay.
light.
Hmm.
So I think you're right. I think it makes perfect sense.
That's why their fortresses can fly.
I think so.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's other clues about it in other things that Chinchimala did, but I can't remember right now.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know.
Yeah.
Udinas, what else does he do? So he has his weird spirit journey. He gets attached to, or makes basically a deal with a wraith, Tiste-Edur, who calls himself Wither.
Mm-hmm.
He's got Wyval blood, which is,
Yeah.
I believe,
Gets
like Shannon
visited
said,
by
wyvern.
Monandor.
Oh, we also find out a little bit of lore drop. The Incoral, the like sea serpents we see in Deadhouse Gates and other shit, are the spawn of they're Wyvals. That's what they are, and they're the spawn of dragons.
Yeah, are wyverns wyverns, right? They're wyverns. Or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's basically, yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, so can someone explain to me why Udinas's hands are all cut up in the scene where he's serving them food, like right at the end? I had
Because
no
he
idea what was going on.
falls in his dream. I think like he gets those injuries in the in that dream world, and they affect his physical body. Right?
But he walked in without them. So did he have the dream while he was serving them?
Yeah, well, he went to take a rest. I think there is a mention that he was allowed to take a nap before dinner was served or something like that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
I may have read this wrong, but I thought the wounds he had from when the Wyval picked him up, those reopened. Was that not the case? He had an injury somewhere else?
Yeah, his hand.
Oh, okay.
The Wyval wound is on his shoulder.
Hmm.
It ate his shoulder.
And so that was definitely suspicious. And then Urth checked him again and still found nothing, which I'm not sure if it's thanks to the Wiwal or thanks to the Wraith. Or maybe both. Like he's kind of like double protected right now from being discovered because, multiple entities have interest in him.
The Wraith is not the Wyval? I thought they were the same thing.
No.
What?
I was confused by that too, because it's introduced at the start of the chapter very suddenly. He's just talking to this wraith, and it sounds like this wraith is attached to him. But what's actually happening there is that wraith is just one of many wraiths that's rising up because of all the shit going on. And that wraith is like, hey, slave, you and I can partner up, right? And I'll keep you safe if you do what I want you to do. And that kind of is the deal they make.
But also he knows about the Loki Vival blood in him, right? So I think maybe that's why he chose him.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh. I thought the Wyval that infected him showed up as a wraith and is now hanging out with him. I guess not.
No, Wither is a Tiste-Edur.
Okay.
So one of the ones that was murdered when they killed Siltus Ruin. Which, speaking of which, I did want to say thanks, Stephen Erikson. We've got Wither and Withel in this book now.
I hate it. I know that was part of what's confusing about that.
I confused myself many times the first time.
Yeah, this is not Withel. This is Wither, and he's he's a Tiste-Edur. And yeah, he's there because of the spell that Gothos did to freeze time. apparently that's what allowed all these shadow wraiths to persevere.
So the shadow rates that Hanan Mosag and gang wield, are they also Testandi then?
Yeah, they're all
Oh.
Tiste-Edurs.
Oh, really?
I think
Oh.
so.
Every one of them.
Yep.
Interesting. So they have enslaved the Testandi rates too.
Yeah, I would think of them as like, if you think of ghosts, because that's what they are, as like a symbol / a trope, generally, right? They're like people with unfinished business, right? Like often people who have had like some terrible crime done to them. And like this is the same thing. The Tiste-Edur were betrayed, and so they were the ones who got, they latched onto Gothos' magic and are now returning as ghosts.
Yeah.
So why do we think, I'm not sure which of the Shadow Sisters this one was. Menandor is her name, definitely. Why do we think she interacted with Udinas? In his dream, right?
Yeah, that's an important.
Yeah.
It's not just interacted; she rapes him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which when Udina says, Rulad says that he's going to be made to sleep with one of the three sisters, that coincides with when Udinas drops the plate. I thought maybe in shock of hearing that because he's has been
Oh,
Because it
raped
happened to
by-
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
good point. Good point. Didn't catch that.
So did he think that he might be a sacrifice in some way? Is that what the shock factor was of Rulad's statement?
I don't know. I only read it as like a mention of that name that he, has just encountered in his dream. But yeah, maybe you're right.
Because they mention them all the time. I think they sort of like, ward against them as like they're not considered good things, right? They're generally protect against them, and they mention them quite a lot in daily conversation. So I didn't think it was just the mention.
I think it might specifically be in the context of like intercourse, though, and that there is a violence implied in it, because what Rulad's really saying, he's like saying a metaphor. I'm pretty sure, like they're not actually going to sleep with Rulad, the sisters. It's like a metaphor for him dying, being sacrificed,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
as opposed to Udinas, who is actually raped by one of them. It's actually kind of crazy that in 2 books back to back, we just have the most sudden, unexpected rape scene of 2 different characters, male characters too, and it's like not elaborated on at all. It's crazy.
Who's the
Yeah,
other
I
one?
think it will come, but yeah, you're right. It's just such a similar scene.
It's wild.
Remind me of the other one. Is
Troll. Troll's raped by the Erikson.
Yes.
Yeah,
I was trying to remember who the Erikson raped in the last book. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Except this one felt a lot more vicious than that one. But
it maybe did feel more violent. It's like the character just like appears, rapes the POV character, disappears. And like it's actually kind of wild.
It's crazy.
It's like the same beats. Must ask Steven Erikson
now
about
find
this.
us a thematic parallel between the two.
I mean, Troll is connected to Udinas, so maybe there is something there.
Yes. And there's something else.
But I don't think
we'll
there
talk
is.
about later. Yeah.
Right.
Is there a connection between Menandor and Erikson, though? I don't think so.
If there is, we certainly haven't been introduced to it as of the start of book 5.
Yeah.
Have we already talked about your thing, Mirka, with Hal Beddick? Or
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I thought about him, and it always shocks me how, you know, how how much guilt he carries, and it always kind of like um moves me. And I think it's a very tragic story, and I would almost say it's kind of similar to Felicine, but with the difference that we have two books about Felicine's tragic story, and we have maybe half a page that tells us about like what was done to Hal Beddick and how, his exploration of the native tribes led to terrible conquest, and how he's like responsible for it even though he didn't mean to. And yeah, I just think it's a very interesting story that, definitely we could find those parallels between, I don't know, like conquistadors who came to the Americas, but no, like I guess they didn't live long enough to see the consequences of their actions, where lottery empire seems very efficient, and like they basically annihilated those tribes within a few years, it seems, and Halbedik lives to see what was done to them thanks to his knowledge of these tribes and thanks to him reporting on them. And yeah, I'm just really touched by that, and I feel sorry for him. And it's hard to not root for him and his quest for vengeance. Do you guys see that this way as well?
I mean, I'm pretty sure that when when all the conquistadors and all the explorers who went to America, a lot of them did see the extinction and the destruction of a lot of the tribes in their lifetime. I
But
think
I guess
especially
not
some of the
to
Caribbean
the full
islands.
extent, right? I guess
Some
what
of
we
the
see now
Caribbean islands were completely, like Christopher Columbus almost I think it basically destroyed a lot of those tribes within his lifetime.
Okay, yeah.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah, we are described, we have the description of the Nerek living, homeless in Leatheras at the edge of society, just like being slaves or, not having anything to their name at all. So
That's bleak. Yeah.
it's kind of like we would assume that would take longer than, I don't know, maybe a decade, but clearly not. And yeah, I don't know, like I guess the way it's written, where it is mentioned that Hal kind of thought it was going to be he was going to gather knowledge to make sure that they can coexist together, and kind of like he was very naive. I think that's the word that it's used in the book as well, but it's just very sad.
Yeah. I think the thing that impacted me the most is how lonely he feels. Like he doesn't express that. I just mean like reading all his scenes, he just seems incredibly lonely. I mean, it really is highlighted in the scene with Serempedak in chapter, I don't know, one of the chapters we just read, that, these two have shared each other's bed and they've worked together, and yet there is this enormous disconnect and they don't trust each other. And Holt seems unable to trust anyone. I mean, it feels like he is living on an island. It's very sad.
I like the relation to Tehol in that Hal doesn't even know that Tehol was trying to protect the native people and kind of like gave them those islands to live on. That's very sweet. And I hope that, I'm not sure if he will ever find out. I hope he does. That would be good.
Similarly, that it seems like Tehol was inspired by Hull, and that really motivated what he did, all his actions.
Yeah. And there was this additional thing that was jarring / really touching or really got to me was when the sisters asked Tehol why he hasn't told Hal, and then answer for themselves that they knew it wouldn't be enough, even though he's done so much to protect them. It's not enough to make up
Yeah.
remotely for
Yeah.
what Hal went through.
Yeah, those little hints, they just make
Yeah.
it, kind of heartbreaking to think about the fate of those native tribes and the role that Hal Beddick played.
Yeah. Hi, cat.
What's your cat's name? We're having a cameo.
His name is Goose.
Goose. I love it.
I love when animals are named after other animals.
Right? This is inspired by Top Gun, though.
I was gonna ask. Is it? Yeah. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, there's a dog in Dresden called Mouse, right? Yes. Anyway.
Good shit.
I guess I just looked it up, Mirka. I read that for a lot of these Caribbean islands, most of the population was gone within like 50 to 60 years of Christopher Columbus arriving there. That's why there's almost no indigenous people left in the Caribbean
That's
islands.
crazy.
Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Less than a century.
I think it is realistic how it's depicted in this book also too, but it can suddenly
Tragic.
the impact of like the way more complex, maybe industrial society versus a more tribal society, how that sort of conflict can lead to very rapid destruction. Right.
Well, disease is a big part of it. I mean, my understanding too, but like I don't know if that isn't brought up with Latheris, is it? They don't end up passing
I don't think
along.
so. I think they most what is mentioned is that the Hal's reports were studied, and then any what is it called, like weak spots were exploited. I think religion maybe was mentioned, like they would kind of turn them to their religion and then like have the power over them thanks to that, which is, again, history, real world history repeated as well. Yeah.
Sad. What else happens in chapter 4? We're introduced to Shirkalal. That's a significant character. She is dead. We know. She misses having sex.
And smelling good.
And smelling, yeah, that's right. And smelling nice. And Tehol basically won her over by saying, we'll find a way to make all that happen.
Yeah, very funny characters. I love that, they're talking to each other. It was the best part of a chapter for me. Yeah, all those sections with him are very, I think they're my favorite part of the book.
Tehol?
Yes.
Tehol?
Tehol sections.
Yes.
It's just so funny. I don't know.
He's a star. Yeah.
He's
I can
funny
agree.
and smart. I guess like the way that he uncovers the what is his name? Garen. Somebody.
Synod.
Oh yeah.
Ebrick or Ebrick.
Yeah.
So he's Tehol is probably maybe the only person who thinks or suspects that the whole thing was a conspiracy, and he just did it. He staged it basically to receive the pardon. And then,
well, I'm very glad that they just went ahead, because like I read that section, I'm like, oh, did he set this up to? And so we immediately find out that yes, this is all a setup so that he could get this. What was it, the king's leave or something, so that he could do whatever he wants.
That reminds me, I found that character so interesting. Did not remember him at all from a first read, Garen, and he is very clearly like a parallel, with Tehol, and I mean you could maybe say Hol as well, right? Where he is this vigilante who essentially, if he thinks you're a criminal, if he thinks you're bad, you're corrupt, whatever, he kills you. And he can get away with it because he has the law on his side. He has a free pass. it's interesting to think like what Tehel did. I think, and what he is going to do, what he is actively in the process of doing, to essentially breaking down their markets and destroying the cornerstone of their civilization. Like, I think it is very, there's a noble aspect to it and a sense of justice maybe. But I think something that maybe gets swept under the rug is all of the innocent, ordinary people who are punished and maybe die as a result of it. I mean, they explicitly talk about all of his like business partners committing suicide, and that Tehel was the only one who didn't, which is how Garen knew he did it on purpose and was, masterminding all of that. It's
I see what you're
interesting.
saying,
So-
and then on the other hand, Garen, he just kills the people who, according to him, deserve it, or
Yeah.
he just goes after the bad ones, presumably.
I think he is worse, but I do think he's like,
Yeah.
he is the shadow side. Like, he's the reflection of Tehel in that way, that he is creating his own justice, and it is destructive and gets people killed, or in his case,
Does he
kills
remind
people.
of Batman? Anyone else? Like I immediately thought of Batman.
Batman. I was
Gotham.
thinking Punisher. Like he's just all in, like cutting people's heads off.
Yeah.
Well, I love that reveal with Tehol though, that because we kind of knew that he was hiding his wealth and we didn't know what was up, but now we find out that he through Garen that he had become business partners with all of his enemies just so he could destroy them by taking them down and faking a bankruptcy basically somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really cool that they know that that the other one knows, and I think Tehol even says that I will get him before he gets me, or I'll try to get him before he gets me. Like it's like the conflict of these two masterminds. I think that's very exciting.
And then Tehol has decided in this chapter that I'm going to move on him before he can move on me too.
Yeah.
So they're both trying to, neither one has any real reason to go after the other except he might be a threat to me, so I'm going to go after him.
Game of cat and mouse.
Yeah.
I do think maybe the most stark difference between them, besides one is actively violent and the other one is kind of doing his power games indirectly, is that Tehol in some way feels like a symbol of chaos, or like what he's creating is chaos, while Garen is actively trying to enforce order.
Thinking. I think I agree. I don't know, because we are told at first that it's vigilante justice mostly, but it also seems like he's happily getting rid of people who just make him unhappy for some reason.
Right.
So I don't know that it's strictly a move towards order.
Under the auspices of creating order, right? He's treating himself as law enforcement, even if that's not actually, he's not enforcing the law strictly. While Tehol's actively trying to cause the dissolution of their order, if you will, Tehol is literally a force of chaos.
So what Jaren says about Tehol is the one who took advantage of the king's leave without ever actually having permission to, and never getting caught. So maybe there's something to that. Yeah.
I love Hal Beddick.
He's brilliant.
Nobody mentioned Ublala so far.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Ublala.
I will say, I do feel like sometimes that, like, I have mixed feelings about Ublala Pung, because I do feel like he's a very fun and interesting character, and being half Toblikai, and at the same time, like, this dude seems like he's been, like, at the very least sexually harassed, if not, like, repeatedly traumatized, and that's the joke. And it just feels like, like, I don't know. It's like slightly in bad taste.
It at least just in this chapter, like I don't really like what they do with Ublala. I like the beginning. I like the fact that he was able to survive the drowning. In that, and apparently, Parthenols have 4 lungs. We find out, but I don't know. Like the whole like he's got a giant penis thing. Like that joke got old like real fast for me. Like, okay, I get it. He's got a big penis, and I forget her name. The Shrand. I don't know. But yeah, and then he clearly is very uncomfortable around these girls, and yeah, like he seems to almost have the mentality of like he's developmentally stunted or something. And so I don't know. I did not appreciate the joke of him, at least thus far.
Yeah, I agree that it seems slightly cruel. And I agree that he, about his development, like mental development thing. I do think that that's implied as well. That he's like a child in a man's body, which makes it even worse. Yeah.
Yes, makes it much worse, I thought. So yeah, this is one of those times where Erikson jumped on a joke and just kind of like I'm not there with you.
Yeah, the one thing I'll give Erikson is Ublala Pung, incredibly fun to say. One of those that just rolls right off the tongue. 10 out of 10, Erikson.
Ublala Pung.
Yeah. Yep. I just assume that these sort of things are sort of like, well, maybe. I mean, when was this written? It was only like 10 years ago, but still, like he's
more than that. But yeah.
Yeah, but it's still like it's a bit time ago. 2000s, I guess. I don't know. Society changes, and we hopefully get better.
Yeah.
So
the cultural mores have definitely changed. I mean, I think it would be potentially a slightly racy joke regardless, but it definitely is one that just I'm sure would play much better 15 years ago or however long ago when this book was published.
Yeah, I just
January 1st, 2004. I just looked it up.
Oh, 2004. Okay.
Oh, wow. There you go. Ago. More than 20 years ago.
Did my first book then come out in the 90s? I thought it came out in the 2000s something.
It was like 99, I want to say.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Older than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
What else?
What else happened?
I think we wanted to talk about explicitly. I think it was Shannon. Did you?
Well, I liked. Okay, so we really kind of learned about Lethris in chapter 4 and how they do things, and yeah, so they're criminals. They they don't put them in jail. Instead, they charge them a fine, and you can pay it, or if you can't pay it, you got to do this drowning thing where you can swim, which then they turn into like a gambling. Because it's, ultimately it's all about money. So I think that's really interesting. How they've turned this their whole criminal law system into just a way to make money.
Yeah.
And I thought
it first, capitalism.
Yeah. Well, they put a bunch of money on their necks, and I'm like, you're just losing the money with the drowning. What's the point of the fine? And like, what, you're just killing someone and losing money over it. But no, sir, they fleshed the money out afterwards.
Yeah, they have a rope tied to it so they can haul it back keep the money and then just throw the body back in the water. Like, dang.
Yeah.
I
That
think
was
it's cool
bleak.
how all this stuff is like connected to money. It's almost like, how do I say it? It's almost like a magic system, like in an aspect of the civilization. Like, oh, everything is about money.
Mhm.
I think it's very fun because it's not in a super dry and boring way, right?
It's colorful, right?
Yeah.
No, I think this was like not earlier in the book, but this is the chapter where like Lethris became like a city. I don't want to say it's one of my favorite cities, like Darujistan. Like I just think it's a cool city, but it's more like I like reading about it because it's interesting. The way they monetize everything and then we just get all this talks about peaks and the different kind of like what which I don't think at this point we really have a full understanding of their
No.
monetary system. We just know there are peaks and then things less than that.
What fascinated me about drownings or this whole system is how relatively easily you can avoid punishment in Ladras. Like you can first pay whatever you need to pay. So if you're rich, you could just go kill people and then pay for instead of punishment. And then if you're really fit, you can also swim across the canal and avoid punishment again.
Though they do say very very few people do
they
that.
don't have prisons.
So.
I guess not.
At this point, no, it doesn't look like they have prisons at all.
Well, it's cheaper to not have prisons, right?
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
They don't gotta pay to have these people. It's just pay your way out or let them die.
Yeah,
and make money off of
their
their death.
But they must have a lot of rich criminals running free and like continuing to commit crimes.
I thought that same thing. Like we make this big deal about the king's leave, but technically, if you have enough money, I mean, you can probably get away with anything, really.
Yeah.
I mean, probably. I think that's fine for this sort of society. Where like, well, if you kill someone important, then it's gonna be too expensive for you to pay off. But if it's someone cheap, they're like, oh well, it's just what it is, I guess. And like money makes right, probably.
Yeah. Or maybe they rely on the fact that the rich people would not be willing to spend the money for the fines, therefore they will not commit crimes.
That's true.
So that's pretty much what Shar Kelal was doing, though, right? She had a big stash of gold that she was using to pay out the fines, apparently, every time she got caught. Except this time, her landlord stole her stash. So she had to do the thing.
Incredible.
Yep, and then she got drowned.
This has
undid.
Like I mean, y'all might be aware of this, but like it has historical precedent too. Like, I mean, it's more like of a Middle Ages thing by my understanding, but like a lot of crimes were dealt with in like England, for example, with what was called like the Weregild, where like if you killed someone, you would pay their family money as a result. I mean, sometimes maybe you get like hanged for it, but like often you could just like pay it out. And especially if you were like a lord, you could go around and like take what you wanted, and all you had to do was like pay for whoever you victimized, however you victimized them. It's
or
disturbing.
You could also pay the church, right, to be forgiven your sins.
Right. Indulgences, yeah.
That was the thing.
Definitely not humanity's finest moment, but
No.
Probably not the worst either, but
probably not the worst either. That's also true.
Yeah.
I guess this may not be the last thing we have to talk about, but Bryce, however we're saying his name, we get more insight into him. He interacts with court politics, and he just feels totally out of his element and lonely himself. Really is very noticeable that the two big badass warrior Beddick brothers living very lonely, sad existences. While Tehol has got a nice buddy making him pants and 3 big women who, bother him day in and day out. and seems to be doing all right.
Taehol takes after his mother, and the other two after their father.
Yeah.
And also, it was mentioned that they are lonely or alone, as in not in a relationship with someone because their mother set such high expectations.
That's right.
Being the extraordinary woman she was, which
Yep.
is cool. I guess, yeah, I can see that happening. And I think Seren Pedag was mentioned to be similarly extraordinary, but that didn't work out, sadly, for Hal. We didn't know what happened there, do we?
I don't think so.
I'm just thinking about, like, not a lot of the characters in Malazan are like, have like a normal married relationship. They're all, how do I say, either single or have interesting relationships.
Yeah, the only normal marriage I can think of is Scarlpust and Megora for sure. So
very normal. Yeah.
Yes.
Otherwise, they're all really weird.
Yeah, for the Malazans, we're following the soldiers, which are, not really tied down in that way.
I mean, historically, many soldiers had wives and all this sort of thing, right? It's not. I wouldn't say it's weird. I don't know.
I don't know.
Especially since we're more around like Roman soldiers, a lot of Romans. I guess it depends what period, but a lot of Roman soldiers, I would assume, had wives, and a lot of them also wives that maybe followed the army. Right?
No, you're right. That is interesting.
But if you think about it, most of fantasy protagonists are not like, I don't know, middle-aged settled men or women with a family, or they're all alone. They have no connections. They have nothing tying them down that prevents them from going on an adventure, I guess.
Yeah, in this case, they are middle-aged and they also don't have anything tying them down.
Yeah, I'm saying.
No,
it just makes it easier.
Or like Kalam, when they get tied down, they are kicked out of the house and have to leave.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. I was thinking about that too, and I don't know. Hi, Mika. Yeah.
I would want to read more about these people, I guess. I don't know. Give me someone like me. I can't relate anymore. When I was a teenager, sure, I can relate. But now I need someone more relatable.
Need a married man to read about.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I actually would be interested in that,
Yeah.
Like, I think there's room for it, and you can tell really interesting stories. Because, like, when the really dramatic shit happens, suddenly the relationships are very fraught and dynamic. It's like, I mean, I to talk in a very positive light about A Song of Ice and Fire, like, there are a lot of married couples, some of whom are happily married. Most are not, but that's drama. But some are. Like, I mean, Ned and Kat, for example, right? And yet that doesn't stop there being drama.
Yeah.
Doesn't stop the story from happening.
It also puts in more interesting decisions. They're not just, I'm going to sacrifice myself for the good of everyone. It's like, well, I need to think about my family, maybe my kids.
Yeah.
It's like, right?
No, I agree with you. I could use more married couples, like relatively happily married couples.
Just stable or whatever, right?
Yeah. With like kids, who they like don't have a completely disastrous relationship with.
Yeah, make it interesting. An adventure with kids. I think that's interesting.
For sure. That's really interesting. Yeah. I mean, the stakes just are like higher. But the personal stakes and the drama you can deal with it. Do we have any examples of a positive parental-child relationship?
I mean, I think just by default, if the hero of any of the fantasy or most fantasy series, if they had a family and they were doing what they're doing, they automatically put them as like an asshole. because they're not.
Yeah.
Well,
It's not.
Are we just talking about
respectful
Malazan or
or-
anything?
no, I'm talking
Just
about
in general.
Malazan. Because again, A Song of Ice and
Yeah.
Fire, you can point at the Starks. Like the Starks are
yeah.
a relatively happy, functional family. Like they all love each other. More or
Yeah.
less. Okay, there's some drama. Yeah, okay. That's generalizing. But like when we're talking as a family, like in fantasies, that they're like a relatively happy family compared to like most
Yeah.
families in fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
But Malazan, like, do we have any parent-child relationships that are remotely?
Well,
decent?
I mean, Axelar and her father, I
Axelar-
guess. Yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
Oh.
It was real brief, but those two.
Yeah, he got killed immediately as soon as they
Very
reunited. Off page. You know, Lorik and Osric, kind of, but
I was gonna say Osric and Lorik.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we ended up with them in kind of a nice spot.
I guess it's just family is a very convenient character to kill off to give motivation to other characters, right?
for sure.
Yeah.
I'm with you though, Dan, that I think oftentimes characters like being alive, at least to start, and having that be part of the drama makes it more interesting. Okay, I can't believe I'm saying all this shit about do we have a single relatively stable, decent parent-child relationship when literally in this book we do with the Singars. Like obviously they have some internal conflict. No, the parents they love their kids. Like they clearly do. There's drama going on, but that's what I'm talking about, where it's like you have this relatively stable family unit that gets disrupted by forces
Most
beyond
of the drama there is between the brothers, I would say.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I guess particularly
Exactly.
Rulad. But
we're not seeing it from the father's perspective of a mother, right? We're seeing from the children.
Right.
Usually that's where we see it from.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
but
it's too
usually we don't see it
realistic.
at all because the dynamics are either horrible or the parents are dead.
Yeah.
Or it's a revenge story where the parent is alive and the children are dead.
True. Very, very common. I don't know. I just want to read a fancy book about a normal guy living his normal life in this crazy fucked up world. But he's just trying to make, just trying to live his normal life. That's what I really want. I think that would be fun.
Maybe not quite what you want, but maybe a little bit in that realm is what is the first book? I'll find it, but it's who's the author? Not C.J. Cherry. Who wrote it? Might be C.J. Cherry. I will find it once again.
Okay.
Beguiled. Yes, that's the name of the book.
Okay.
I'll also say I don't know that this matches exactly what you're saying because the character definitely is kind of extraordinary in some ways, but fits chivalry farcier in Robin Hobb actively is just trying to live a normal life and at absolutely no chance is given the opportunity to do so.
I see. Okay.
He just actually that's not true. That's not strictly true. But a big part of his motivation definitely is trying to just like have a life, like to just be happy and like just live a normal life.
That makes sense to me. I don't know. I
I
was reading all these parts about what's his name? I always forget his name. The poor guy. The guy has no money. About him, and I'll be like, I would be happy reading a book about him just dealing with poverty and getting poorer and poorer and having like smaller and smaller garments, or I could just read a book of that. I think.
Have you tried literary fiction?
True though. I just finished Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. It is fantastic, and it is similar to that. Really about just like occasionally an extraordinary event happens, but generally people just dealing with their lives.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm reading Oliver Twist.
Nice. Oh wow, there you go.
Yeah. I'm doing Charles Dickens publication order, Simon Vance audiobooks. So I'm only on the second book.
Oh, very cool.
Probably going to do one book a year or something. But Sharing Knife, that's the name of the series. Lois
Sharing
McMaster
Knife.
Bujold.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did I mention last week that I feel like Tehol and Bug, their dynamic and everything going on there feels very Dickensian to me?
I think you
Like the next time we
did.
talk to
Yes.
Erikson, I want to explicitly ask him about that, and also any general like literary fiction inspirations in the series, because he so often gets asked about fantasy. You know, that's the low hanging fruit. Like, what fantasy inspired you? And like, I am of course curious about that, but you know, authors generally read outside their genre, so I would be curious to hear what it is that inspires him outside of fantasy. And actually, it sounds like, based off the interviews I have seen, he doesn't really read fantasy anymore. So
Yeah. Yeah. Are we ready to do quotes?
I think so. There were some really good quotes.
Yeah. But I just brought the one about Bug's sorry existence because that was gold and I didn't want to mar it with anything else.
That was maybe my favorite one too.
There were several quotes I know that I was like, I really need to just like start highlighting and marking them, because I like actively stopped and was like, this is really good, but I just can't be asked to do it. It just won't happen.
To highlight, to mar your
Yeah.
book with highlight.
That's why I don't like highlighting a physical book. I do not like writing in them. I don't like it. It displeases me.
Oh, well, that's why you just have an ebook. And
Yeah.
That would be wise. I don't have an ebook copy of these. If I did, I would definitely be highlighting more. A lot
I feel
more,
like if you're doing it enough, then it loops into being acceptable. If you're only doing it about once in a while, it's horrible. But if it's like all very consistent everywhere, but it's like, okay, this is great.
I mean, I have no problem with other people doing it. I just, something about like, it was the same thing when I was in like school, and like, I just don't like, I don't know what it is.
well, one I had highlighted, I really liked the description of the Kashan sorcery, the sorcery of the Kachan Chamal, where it says to have a Kachan sorcery, fear said after a time, is born of sounds our ears cannot hear, formed into words that loosen the bindings that hold all matters together, that hold it in the ground, sounds that bend and stretch light as a tidal in a flow up a river is drawn apart at the moment of turning. With this sorcery, they fashioned fortresses of stone that rode the sky like clouds. With the sorcery, they turned darkness upon itself. With a hunger none who had come too close could defy, an all-devouring hunger that first fed and foremost upon itself. So I just thought it was like, yeah, I mean, I guess their sorcery is very much built on sound and I don't know, just a really beautiful way I thought of putting it.
You must have been off camera when we were talking about this earlier, because we were talking about, I think it's gravity. I think what they're describing there is gravity.
I'm 99% sure it's gravity. Like,
yeah.
it must be.
Yeah, if you read it, it's like poetic language describing gravity. We're talking about this force. I also was like initially put off by like, oh, it's describing the sound you can't hear. And so I thought it was like, you know, related to sound. But then when they go on and describe what it does, like, it sounds like gravity. And that explains why their fortresses fly, and it bends light, and like, you know, can tear matter
it's
apart.
Wonderfully poetic how he describes, rather than just
Oh, I agree.
They control gravity and can make things fly. Like,
absolutely. No, that's an excellent passage. I agree. I'm like very quickly trying to go through and see, is there anything I can remember that I was like, this is it. This is peak.
For a lot of people.
Normally, Varsha, you come with all the quotes.
I do, but Bug's sorry existence needs to be respected, Carl. It just does.
It's so powerful.
I mean, he doesn't respect it himself, so how can I respect
it? That's true. That is true. I like when Shirk, Ella keeps telling Tehol not to make her laugh. And then
Yeah.
Tehol says, "Don't make me laugh." And Shirk says, "Why?" And it says, "Because my laugh is very infectious." It's like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I get it. That's
That was
cool.
real good.
Here on page 95 in my copy is a description of the stone bowl. A vast gorge, like a knife's puncturing wound in the bedrock, its sides sheer and streaming with water. It ran in a jagged line beginning beneath Hassana Inlet, half a day to the west, and finally vanishing into the bedrock more than days' travel to the east. It goes on, but really I wanted to highlight was the metaphor of it looking like the knife's puncturing wound, which speaks to the betrayal that happened there. Little bit of a literary illusion there.
Nice.
Yeah, I like that. I highlighted these, but not because I agree with them strictly. What do you guys think of Seren Padak's monologue, where she sort of differentiated between men and women, attributing various things to them, and how women need to talk and men have silences that they can become friends over? And I don't know.
I don't remember that. Was
I
that
remember
in
one they're
chapter
saying
6?
about a man looking down and seeing one rock and then another rock, and a woman seeing
Yeah,
just
that.
rocks. I remember that one.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
what
don't.
it means, but
I also Dan, at that part I was like kind of like, what the fuck are you saying? Like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds good. It sounds like
Right,
it
yeah,
means
like
something, but
it sounds meaningful, but I don't really know what you mean. I do remember what you're talking about, the Varsha. I mean, because that's from that same area where she's thinking about the differences between men and women.
Yes.
I mean, I of an observation of people, I don't know that I consider it particularly poignant or profound, but I do think it speaks to who she is quite
Yeah.
a lot, you know,
I
and the
think
way
that's
she
where
views
I felt.
herself in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah, I think
No,
that's
no.
kind of where I felt too. That I so there's not a lot that Erikson writes that I feel uncomfortable about agreeing with. But this passage was like that. I don't know that. Just on principle, I don't like this characterization of like men and women. But if I flip it a little bit and think about instead what it says about a character, that she's seeing the world in this way as like necessary divisions, especially among the genders, maybe that's telling us who she is.
Absolutely.
I think beyond that too, you know, like, because often when people make these generalizations about men and women, I mean, really what they're talking about is often like kind of the like the way men and women in their society act and like the kind of ways they learn to socialize and, you know, the variations that way. And like they're endlessly, of course, complex. Humans, we're individuals, like we vary so much. But I do think that, you know, continuing that train of thought, that like it maybe does speak to the way men and women act and are taught to act in their society. That there are expectations and just cultural weight between the two of them. So then, rather than necessarily viewing it as like kind of a strict, I think maybe genetic inheritance, it's like, you know, because like even getting into like issues of like sex and generalizing behavior that way, like I think, you know, often the bigger, like any sort of bigger differences do come from just the way that like people are interacting with their society and like how they fit into it as a man or a woman or whatever. Um, and so maybe that also is a way to view her point of view. Is it is talking about how like Letheri men and women generalizing
Yeah, that makes sense.
interact.
I just thought it was very, how do I say? Like, it's very powerful recourse to have these sort of musings and about men and women, and put like in these very neat sort of metaphors as far as, just literature. Like it happens all the time. So I don't know. It's just literature, I guess, in a sense. Because it reads nice to sort of package parts of society within simple metaphors or simple analogies, right? That sounds good and give you this image.
That's not just literature, though. Like, I think literature does that because people do that. Like,
Yeah.
how often do you hear people generalize whole groups of people? And I do think it probably happens most often with men and women.
Yeah.
That, I mean, I can say that, like, I try to treat people as individuals, but I know that inevitably there are times where, at least in my head, I generalize people and generalize traits and things like that. And I 100% hear people say that. I mean, you can go online and see, the quote unquote like gender wars, right? Where people will generalize the whole swaths of the population, and so I think it is something very human that like it can get annoying, I think, sometimes. Like the Wheel of Time gets really annoying with how Robert Jordan does that. But I also do think it's a real thing that people like to just generalize. Like, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, sort of thing. Like it's real. Like that's a real thing people do.
People like to try to, create order from chaos and sort things in very simple categories with as few variables as possible. So it fits very neatly into the sort of, the sort of mind and thinking that humans like to do. And it's like, okay, this also fits nicely in literature, and it's like a beautiful way of describing things. It's like fits very, it fits well into the reader's mind, I think. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Tick, tick, couple of things, nice metaphor. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hard to describe.
I agree with that 100%.
It has an element of maybe propagating stereotypes about it that I don't necessarily like. Not that she's strictly speaking in terms of stereotypes. I think she is making deeper observations than that. But despite that, I think any characterizations like this in literature, like I used to think of them as keen observations, but now I'm like, I just rail at them inherently.
But think about the same, like, okay, literary society is like saying, oh, everyone is about money, everything is revolves around money. It's also a simplification of, a variety of different people that probably have different beliefs, right? And we do the same for different cultures, maybe different jobs. It's like, oh, that person does that job. And it's like that. It's just a lot of things that I feel are like that.
No, exactly.
We notice this more because it's more predominant in the discourse in our current society, but it applies to a lot of different things.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Just something to think about, I think.
Yeah.
Anything else? Did you find your quotes, Carl, without your highlights?
No, I did not.
The only quote I remember was, I don't even know if it's this section, but it's when he's discussing, well, again, I forget his name. Theo, whatever. Theo. Yeah, I always forget his name. Theo. Talking with Rag, and he's like, I have enough cloth to make your pants, and it's like, oh, should I make shorts or should I just make one very long cider pant? And he chooses the long way. For some reason, that's so funny to me. Instead of going for shorts, he goes for
that is iconic.
Pants.
Yeah,
iconic.
And when great. Bug actually does what he says, is there any point in continuing?
Well, and then in the part we read tonight, he did make him the pants, but then it was like, what was it? Your knees will be really hot.
It's like one leg will be warm.
Yeah, one leg's warmer. So he ends up taking them back and having to just steal some more wool or something. I don't know.
I just like to imagine what his reasoning is in his mind. It's like, oh, I would look like a boy with shorts. What? I don't know. It's so silly.
Anyway, I think that's a good note to close. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week with the next 3 chapters. Once again, if you'd like to join us, please check out the Patreon forum. That's where we have some offline discussions and stuff. We'll see you soon. Bye.